Listeners, welcome to Tales of Abundance. As always, I am here with Anthony and Dr. John. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I'm
Doing
alive
great.
and well based on the topic. I was waiting for Anthony. Got to be faster
Yeah,
than that.
yeah, for
All
sure.
right.
Happy
So
to
we're
be
going
here.
we're going to get into longevity and just how long people can live today, and I think this is going to be a really interesting topic. Listeners, by the way, I always ask you to download, subscribe, tell your friends at the end. I'm going to tell you at the beginning in case you don't make it till the end. So go on there,
that
download,
is not a
subscribe, go to the
that's,
website, talesofabundance.com, whatever you have to do. So
that is
uh,
not a great longevity speech, Randy.
you never know. Some people are busy. They go to the gym. You never know what's going to happen. Somebody might get in a car crash between now and then. Let's hope not. But
Oh man,
you
tough
never
tough
know.
start.
All right. So I want to start out. The first thing was an article out of Nature magazine, and it asks the question: could humans live to be 150? And John, I know you reviewed this article. You want to give people a synopsis of what it is?
I mean, the short answer is this question's everywhere, right? I think lots of people want the answer to be yes. The answer today is not yet. And so I think that lots of really smart people believe that we're headed this direction and the science is becoming more clear. I, for one, am in that camp. Like I hope to make it past 100. So um, I think there's some really interesting things that are happening, but I don't think there's really clear answers today. And so today we have hope. We have some science that seems to be pointing us in that direction. But I think that if somebody was asking hardcore scientifically, is it true today? The answer is not yet, but you know, that's okay.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on this?
It's just, to me, it's a. I wish this, all of this, and all these advances had happened 15 or 20 years ago. I'm afraid that people are going to be living to 125 and living well at 125, but I'll be gone by the time that technology gets to the masses. It's just an amazing set of things are going on in terms of discovery and so forth. And I have both a lot of positive thoughts about it and some things that trouble me in terms of, um, why have for so long we've missed the important aspects of diet and exercise and healthcare that would improve people's longevity. So I have some issues with big pharma and things like that. But the good news is there's a lot of great stuff on the horizon, and I think it's going to really help people in the long run. So
Yeah, let me ask you guys a question kind of slightly on a different trail. When I was a kid, I used to see people that were my age, 56, and I would think, holy shit, they're old, right?
yeah,
And what I ask myself is, was that because I was 8 or 10 or 12 and they just seemed old compared to a 10-year-old? Or are we that much healthier now? What do you think that is? My feeling is 56-year-olds are healthier than they were, 40, 50 years ago. But what do you guys think? And I'm picking that because
well,
that's my age. I mean, it could be a 40-year-old, it could be an 80-year-old, but I already feel like we're healthier than we were.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that's true?
I don't. The way I would answer that, I would waffle on that because there's probably a significant bifurcation in the population depending on um, maybe socioeconomic influences that, the facts are and John will speak to this, the incidence of severe complications with diabetes and heart health and so forth is afflicting a significant population. Conversely, there's part of the population that has taken its health seriously and are doing some things or a lot of things to improve their health and keep their health. So I think the answer is it depends. Um, Certainly, the opportunity to be healthy has never been better. But whether or not people are taking advantage of that, it's another question.
I think, Randy, you're probably seeing a lot healthier people based on who you hang out with today versus who you hung out with when you were 8. And so if you just kind of take yourself back and think about the community you lived in and what was around you, and then think about the community today, the real question is the socioeconomic composition the same? Is the societal composition the same? And so if you look back at that, I would actually ask the question back to you, right? Do you think you were seeing a broad spectrum of society kind of in one or both places?
No, and there is, like, I think a lot more of those people had worked their tail off on the farm for all those years, or they worked in a factory, or they did, you know, just life was a lot frickin' harder back then. On the other hand, they took a lot less drugs, they ate a lot less sugar. If they worked on the farm or they worked in the factory, they were exercising all day. So there's, I don't know how to weight those, which one, because there's forces working both directions,
I think that's right.
right? Um, and we definitely have had some advancements, but there's things that, as Anthony said earlier, a lot of the incentives that have been in the drug companies and hospitals and whatnot have not necessarily led to the best outcomes, in my opinion.
Prepping for this, you guys both mentioned hospitals, and drug companies. I think we have to also put like big food in there too, right? Like just
For
the
Mhm.
sure.
the abundance of availability to processed food is, certainly also a factor.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. So, I mean, we
Well,
got,
that's
go
where
back, go
that's
back
where I
to
was
episode 5. You can hear about Fiat food in that
yeah,
episode.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
that's where I was coming from earlier about some negative thoughts I have about a very sophisticated country with tremendous advances in technology and armaments and uh, the delivery of clean water and electricity and so forth. Yet, somehow for a significant period of time, we had the most horrendous food recommendations and the diet pyramid and so forth, and that was allowed to permeate our society, which is one of the real significant causes for this bifurcation in health that we have. The habits that got created during this period of time, not easy to overcome, and in some cases were deadly to people that live that lifestyle who are not here today because of it. So I have a real negative feeling about that. I'm not sure I'll ever get over it.
I think the Fiat food episode was a great one. Listeners, go back, check it out with Matt. I think Matthews was just a great, certainly very eye-opening for me from not only from a food perspective, but just the sociology and the policy level. And I learned a lot reading that book.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go similar. Let's pivot a little bit here. The next headline: Japan's global longevity summit. How do you say this word, John? Ikagi.
I'm gonna go with that one, or Ikigai, or Ikigai, or I don't. Yeah, definitely don't understand how to pronounce it, but I definitely understand the concept of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, but the concept is that it is as medicine, and it's talking about Blue Zones 2.0. And if you look at this, it's pretty interesting. I mean, they're talking about which will can get bonds. The healthy longevity. There are 4 pillars: bonds with communication, dietary fiber. Anthony might disagree with that. Physical activity, and then whatever that word is, I can't say. What
It's
Akagi
really
or
about your life's purpose, right? So the
yeah.
Japanese have this concept that you have like what you love doing, what the world needs, what you can get paid for, and then what you're good at. And you draw this Venn diagram. And then, one becomes your profession. If the overlap of two circles, the other two circles can be a vocation for you. One is your life's mission, one is your life's passion. But in the middle of those four, you actually have this really amazing uh, way of finding your purpose, right? And so if I can pull up this, I'm going to pull up this chart here.
So
See if I can share this screen.
yeah, we just talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think, a couple weeks ago when we talked about year-end planning. Uh, we talked about this on the podcast then. So it's interesting that they're talking about how this can lead to a long, healthy life.
Well, it's about purpose, right? And so when you have purpose, I think that there's a lot of things in life, kind of like, relationships. I think relationships and purpose are really important for people to have a reason to wake up in the morning. And I think there's a lot of evidence that once someone retires from their job, if they don't keep their brain engaged, that I think the science that I read was like 5 years after that, people tend to pass away. And certainly it was a shorter time window when, Social Security in the United States was first set up as an even shorter time period. So at the end of the day, having a purpose in your life is helpful and important. Having friends in your life, helpful and important. And so I think the Blue Zones, there was a really cool series, I think, on Netflix about Blue Zones that I found fascinating, just about, how many things they had in common in different parts of the world to have real longevity, to live past 100.
It's the I don't disagree with anything that you said or what the foundation of what the Japanese are talking about here. It's it's social connection and having um, a purpose is incredibly important, but it's just an element or an element or two of all the other things that are at play, right? It's having the right diet for you. It's having, the appropriate amount of physical activity, um, and clearly getting enough sleep. You can't. You just you can have all of the other things that, but if you're not
That's right.
getting the proper sleep, your body doesn't have a chance to rejuvenate, to heal itself, and to prepare itself for the next day. So it's a amalgamation of all those things. Not a great word, but that's what comes to mind. And then over the top of that, around that, or underneath that, however you want to look at it, is technology, right? The technology of medicine, um, the supplements that you can take that enhance your physical health and your mental health. So it's all of that comes together, and that's a lot for people to digest and to decide upon what path I'm going to take. Someone who may be in slightly below average health at a given time in their life to think about living to 100, it's going to require a lot of change in their life, and it can be overwhelming to people. So they and we talked about this in the planning a couple of weeks ago. That first step is the hardest, right? Okay, I'm gonna try to create this habit. You can't
Well,
go
so hold on,
from
Anthony. You've gone for like 17 different things that are all really important. So let's start with the very beginning. You talked about diet and
yep.
exercise, and I think the one thing that I would have to add to that would be like risk mitigation, right? Because you've got Richard Simmons, is that the guy that was like the super exercise guy in the 70s and 80s?
Mhm.
Amazing diet, amazing exercise, died in his 70s as a result of a fall where he hit his head in the bathroom. And so when you go through diet and exercise, you need to have some risk mitigation. And so I think most experts would say balance, mobility, strength are the three things you want to work on
Mhm.
primarily to avoid falling, which is a killer of people as they age. And so in sleep, of course, I would add in there too. But I think so those things, as you're working about the habits you were going to talk about and all those things, if you're going to start somewhere, balance, mobility, strength, right, and movement,
Right.
that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Right. That enhancing those things is is a step. Not a step, is something that you want to work on. What I'm referencing though is just getting physical activity. We all know people in our lives that are in suboptimal shape who haven't even taken that first step. So you're not going
Sure.
to be able to enhance your balance until you take that first step in physical activity. And that could be just walking in your neighborhood. Um, I know someone very close to me that can barely walk around their little apartment, let
Yeah,
alone start working on going to Pilates to learn to enhance their balance and flexibility and so forth. So um, it's just a tough situation that some people are in. So,
that's right.
but it's all of those things that matter.
Yeah, and I love the purpose. I tend to believe that the mind, uh, however important health and all this other stuff is, I just think everything starts with the mind and belief systems and attitudes. But You know, and one of the best examples of that, Dan Sullivan, who I don't know how old he is, 80 some years old, and he always says he's going to live to be 155 or 156, or I forget what number, 58, something like that. He has a saying, because this guy has so much energy, still running a huge corporation, and his saying is that you need to have a future that's brighter than your past. And I'm paraphrasing, and the words are probably a little off, but I really think that goes back to what you're talking about with purpose, John. If people really have a purpose and a drive, whether it's, you know, in your case, fixing diabetes and, you know, things like that, or somebody else, it could just be feeding the homeless. I don't care what it
Sure.
is. If somebody has that purpose and their future is brighter and they're building, then yeah, I think they're going to live a lot longer.
Well, I think Peter Attia's got a really interesting approach to this. He calls it the Centurion Olympics. And he talks about like the 10 things you want to be able to do in your final 10 years of life. And so if your final 10 years you plan to be 90 to 100 or 140 to 150, like what are the 10 things you want to be able to do? And then understanding what that takes from a health perspective and to start training for it now, which makes a ton of sense to me. Like I'd never been a runner. I don't plan to be a runner into my, you know, the later years, but I do want to be able to walk and hike. And so some of the things on my list are like, I want to be able to make sure that I can put my luggage in an overhead bin the last 10 years of my life. Like that's a thing, right? He talks about like what your VO2 max has to be if you want to be having sex relative to where it is. And I think these are the things that people can be thinking about if they want to think about a future that's as bright as they want it to be in those last 10 years. And so, you know, I just used AI with my wife and I was like, what are the things that might be on our Centurion decathlon? Like, what are the things that I want to be thinking about for my last 10 years? And we haven't gone all the way through the exercise yet, but we've started the conversation. And what things do we want to do together and what things are really important to me? But that'll tell me what steps I need to be taking today. And you know, I was 50 pounds heavier, 55 pounds heavier a few years ago. And, you know, having played sports all the way through college, like that wasn't acceptable. So it was not as tough a road as some people Anthony are talking about. But it was not an easy road back.
Yeah. So, all right, you were talking about the AI use case. Let's use that to transition to the next topic. And I had a little experience with AI last week that ties perfectly into this, I think. And it really is, wow, we live in such a world of abundance and things that we can do that we couldn't do years ago. So what happened is, I believe it was last Tuesday, Julie got up and she's like, oh my God, you kicked a lot last night. So I have kicked in my sleep for, I don't know, as long as I can remember. I thought it was restless leg syndrome. I've talked to doctors about this. There's nobody's had anything that's even remotely helped. And I thought, let me ask AI. So I asked it a prompt, and it was just a general, here's what's going on. And it gave me 6 or 10 potential outcomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I was like, okay, this is kind of useless and too broad, which I think is a lot of people's experience with AI. And I realized I've got to ask it better questions and give it more context. So I gave it more context. It came back, it cut it down to
Oh, wait, hold
whatever.
on. What does more context look like?
I gave it, like, I think my age and this. I don't remember exactly what I did. I don't think I'll give you some specific context.
I
And
think it's important.
well, it is. I'll give you some specific things that really jumped it ahead. So anyway, it gave me a little better answer. But then the first thing on there said something like, well, it's most likely this, but we need to test your iron levels to know if it's it. I said, well, great. I just did a blood test 2 months ago. So I literally took the blood test, fed it in, and it disqualified 3 of the things on the list. And that gave it more. Then it was like, well, it could be this, but we need to test something. Again, originally it was like sodium, iron, and magnesium it wanted to know. Then it wanted something that starts with an F, I don't know what it was, something. And I said, oh, well, I have the Peter Attia, or not Peter Attia, the Dr. Mark Hyman function health test that has 130 or 40 markers. And I'm going to take that. It was 8 or 9 months ago that I did it, but I gave it the older blood test that didn't even check it, just copied and pasted it, put it in there, it goes great. Everything that I kept giving it, it kept giving the answers. And then it said, do you happen to get up and pee a lot in the middle of the night? I was like, well, yes, I do, as a matter of fact. So it started digging in and asking me questions. And this went back and forth for a little while. And finally it said, you very likely have this rare form of sleep apnea that, by the way, was not on the first list of answers. That was not, like, sleep apnea itself was, but not this really rare form. And I forget what it's called, but I have a rare form of sleep apnea. And what's happening, the reason I'm kicking, it's not restless leg syndrome, is literally I can't breathe and my airway is shut off. And therefore, every 10 to 15 seconds, my brain is starving of oxygen and it's sending the signal to my legs to kick and wake me up so I don't die. And this has been happening.
And that's what I mean. That's what the AI said you may have, and it makes sense to you because it fits everything you're experiencing.
Yeah, but it went there. It asked me about the peeing thing. It just kept going and it kept asking more questions. But at the end, and by the way, the peeing thing, it says what this is, it's not the water you drank at night. Because I was going up 2 to 4 times a night. And like, because I had to, right? And it's like, it's not the water, it's the cortisol, that the stress, when your brain is sending that signal, it is a stress hormone. It's going to the liver's processing it and turning it into sugar. And it's peeing that out and getting that out of the system, which, by the way, opened up a whole nother can of worms. I've had, not pre-diabetic even, but I've been, the part of the reason for the updated blood test is I was close to being pre-diabetic, and it didn't make sense to me because I ate less sugar than 98% of the population. I don't eat that much, and I didn't understand why the number was there. And it says this will probably significantly drop my blood sugar level too, and this is where it was coming from, are these stress hormones that were in the body. The best part, it gives me when it gets done, it says, here's how you test it. For $15 on Amazon, order this product. I went on Amazon, bought a $13 product that was more highly rated. It's little plugs I stuck in my nose that opens up the nasal passage. And guess what? For the last 6 nights, I don't kick. I either get up 0 times in the night to pee or 1 time in the night to pee.
How are you feeling in terms of rest?
I feel better, right?
Yeah,
I'm
great.
sleeping better. I'm sleeping longer. And, you know, I've been trying to solve this for years. Doctors, nobody's ever given, and now I could have went to a sleep clinic, but it really is amazing the world we live in. And this is just one little piece, along with
But as a
all
guy
the
who works in a
other.
medical clinic, I would still encourage you to go now take all this to a doctor and talk them through it, and because you don't want to miss something else. But it is great, like just the fact that you have information at your fingertips that takes so much. I mean, 50 years ago, you almost have to be a doctor to have access to that information, right? Or you have to go through encyclopedias, or you have to go through a science library to figure that out, and it would take months maybe. And now we have it at our fingertips, which is just astonishing.
I mean, it's
You know,
amazing. Who knows? I probably would have suffered for this for the rest of my life. And when I think about it now, I'm like, holy shit, my body thought I was dying every 10 to 15 seconds. This is going on all night long for years. That cannot be helped.
well, just a word of caution, I guess, for anybody who's listening, and that is, Randy, you're really good at prompting AI, which helps a lot. And I think that it's easy for AI to kind of take you down a path that may not be right. And so, we love the idea of people using AI in our medical practice to find the right questions to ask providers and get them to be more well informed about their health. I truly believe the more informed we are about our health, the longer we're going to live, the better we're going to do. We've got to increase the ability for a patient to engage with the doctor. Like, that has to be a part of it. And one of my favorite mugs on Amazon is a mug that says, please don't confuse your Google search with my medical degree. I still think there's a lot of value to a physician kind of aiming at that along with the patient. And I think my hope is that it makes medical providers, um, even more effective at what they're doing, because it's hard. It's hard to keep up with all the things that you may have forgotten to tell a doctor, or didn't take in with you, or they didn't ask because they were focused on your, getting up and going to, the bathroom multiple times or whatever. So anyway,
Well, look, and this isn't like its answer was take cyanide, right? Or jump off of a 50-story building. I mean, its answer was go buy this $15 product, stick it in your nose, and see if it solves the problem.
Yeah, I
And
just want to be careful. I want to be careful because there are other people that, and I don't know what the other things could have been, but like there are things that people could like. We have a friend who came to ask the three of us like they had a problem, and everyone had an answer. My answer was get a good diagnostician to find out because that might be a cancer or something else that somebody else can't see, and not treating that well would be not prudent. So, when there's something going on for people, my answer is going to be I think AI is great. You should find out. And if you're having a chronic problem, get a diagnostician to get involved so you don't miss something really important and have it be too late.
That really, I was wondering how I was going to bring that up. That recent conversation we had with a friend of ours, and let me set the context for our listeners. One of our friends had some pain in his hip, and Randy and I both looked at each other. And Randy has a chiropractor that approaches chiropractic care a little bit differently, or a lot differently than most. So don't I. And we both looked at each other, and we had the answer for this gentleman. We said, you got to go do this. And John, of course, gave the
By
answer
the
he
way,
just
I know
gave.
that chiropractor and think the world of her. She is
No,
amazing,
I,
amazing.
I the reason I'm bringing it up is, and I agree with you, John, that it's great when you have the resources and the time and the ability to go see a primary care physician to maybe do a little further diagnosis for you. But I think whether this is a danger or a solution or something in between, people are going to go to AI and ask these questions, or they're going to
Sure.
go to their friends and ask, what do you think I should do? And you know, not being a little bit wary of Western medicine, as I am. Um, when we think something would work, we're very inclined to give people advice. Now, they should take that advice for what it's worth, and as long as it's not a dangerous piece of advice, it may or may not be worth it to that person. But Randy's experience with AI, we in the old days, we would go to Google and ask
Mhm.
WebMD for the old days, like that was like last year. We use WebMD, and we thought that was the source of truth. So yeah, people have to consider the situation, how serious it could be, might be, but they are going to be seeking fast answers.
Yeah, I think
And
that's right. But if we put the longevity lens on this, like we had a cocktail party, holiday party over the weekend, and someone was asking me like, "What do you think about this diet or that diet, and or this way?" And look, there are some things that are harmful. Let's put those in a separate bucket for now. There's a lot of things that are helpful, some of which are evidence based, some of which are just anecdotal. I think we're going to find that personalizing the medicine is what's going to help us get into longevity. And that
Mhm.
means that I might have something that works amazingly well for me that may work amazingly well for you, or it might not. Or I have something that might work amazingly well for me for a time period or a season, and then something shifts. And so my encouragement to everybody is like take in the information, but know my belief is that we're moving towards more personalized medicine, and whether that's pharmacological therapeutics or um, you know uh, gene therapies or stem cell treatments, or like, I think a lot of these things have a ton of promise. I really think that the better we are at this in the long term, it's going to be personalized, which means that like people generally say what works for me is going to work for you. I just think we have to be a little bit more skeptical about that and willing to take that information in and not be skeptical because not just Western medicine or Western medicine only, but like just does this fit what is for me? Try it on maybe, and as long as it's not doing harm, no harm in trying it on. But like I take a bunch of supplements that probably aren't helping me, but there's no downside to me
Right.
taking them, and I'm making a very conscious choice that I'm probably just making for really expensive urine, and I'm good with that because it's a bet that I'm making.
Yeah, the three of us are, in positions where we can get access to
Yep.
professional help. It is not, just talk to the average person on a health plan. Just getting in to see a doctor. can be brutal, let alone a
Yeah.
specialist. And if you're older and you're on Medicare, a lot of PCPs or primary care physicians don't take Medicare anymore. It's
Yeah.
become very, very difficult. So your point about personalization is really important because you've got to own your health
Mhm.
based on where you are on your journey line. Where Randy is in his life, where you are in yours, and where I am in mine, is very, very different. We come from completely different backgrounds. Our habits are totally different. We're totally different. Are totally different. And you just have to own it if you want to have not so. It's not about the length of time. It's about the quality of the time that you have on this earth.
Let's talk
I
about that
talk.
health span versus lifespan. This is a really important conversation that I've only become aware of in the last few years. Like I thought about it, but I didn't have those words for it. And it's really about how you want the quality of your last 10 years of life to be. And they're obviously very interrelated, right? So if the more you drive your health span, the more you drive your lifespan. The more you drive your
Mhm.
lifespan, hopefully you have to do your health span. So I think they're really hyper interrelated. Do you guys think a lot about health span and how you want to live the last 10 years?
I don't think about 10 years. I think about the next 100 years. Like
Okay.
for me, the 10 years is, you know, it's getting through this point. Ray Kurzweil talks about the singularity and it's coming and we're not that far away. And there's going to be a place. His concept is there will be a place where like technology will be increasing lifespan more than 1 year for every year you're alive, and when that happens you will in essence be able to live forever. Now I don't know if he's right. I don't know, if everybody wants to live forever or whatever, but I think about it just as in more, I don't know, 20 or 50 year chunks, I would say.
Yeah, John. To answer your question, yes, I think about it. I literally think about it constantly in terms of what am I doing today that is having a positive and negative impact on my future. My future is tomorrow and 10 years from now and 20 years from now. A stupid story. We have all the grandkids coming into town for Christmas, and there's going to be cookie making and all kinds of stuff, and everyone's diet gets kablooey during the holidays. So my wife makes these sugar cookies every year that I don't like. So
Now,
so
Anthony, this is public. We have to edit that part
that's all
out.
right. No, you don't. No, that's okay because
Okay.
it's
Does she
perfectly
know?
okay. Yeah, she knows.
Okay. All right.
So I
Have
found
you met, have
another
you met
recipe.
Anthony? You think she doesn't know?
Well, yeah, I've also met Jan. It was possible.
So I found this recipe, New York Times recipe for a different type of sugar cookie. And so last night I whipped up a half a batch to test it out. And it came out good. They're fine. And I ate every one of them. And I've beaten myself up ever since. What the
You
hell did
ate
you do?
wait, you ate a half a batch of cookies to make sure you had the right cookies to eat after the whole. I love
Well,
it.
they were good. So they all went down, and but the point, back to the point, I beat myself up over it. So now I'm going to fast for a couple of days to rid my body of that excess sugar and, and get back on track. But to your point, I think about it all the time. What am I doing today? I did an extra half an hour on the Peloton this morning. I went for my walk. I got up and got my sunshine. All the things that you're supposed to do, ground your feet to the ground. All of that is still very, very important, especially at my age
Yeah.
where it could come fast.
Right. So my real takeaway from that is that Jan's sugar cookies are actually much better than yours because they're better and healthier for you because you don't eat them. That's my takeaway.
Maybe,
It's
maybe.
funny.
All right.
It's funny.
Listeners, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation, and specifically, we're going to get into loneliness and some of that and that's impact on longevity when we come back from the break. Hey, it's Randy from Tales of Abundance. Is starting a business part of your journey? Do you have ambition but no clear path? Maybe you feel trapped in your current career. Do you want a real business that can produce $250,000 or more income for you and your family? We have an opportunity for a profitable business that can be part of your path to abundance. I want to personally invite you to see the proven system we've built. It's designed to give you that freedom and control you've been searching for. Visit premiumcabinets.com/abundance to learn more. That's premiumcabinets.com/abundance. Listeners, welcome back. I'm still here with John and Anthony. And we've been talking about lifespan. Can you live to be 150 years was really the question we started with. And the next thing, John, I know this almost couldn't be more in your wheelhouse in a lot of ways. The next article is loneliness and social disconnection are as harmful as smoking, and health risks equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day from loneliness. So I know this is something that hits home with you. Do you want to take up?
Yeah, a couple other. I pulled up NIH and JAMA earlier, Journal of American Medical Association. In 2023, national poll reported 37% of U.S. older adults aged 50 to 80 experienced loneliness, and 34% reported feeling socially isolated. The current Surgeon General has said on more than one occasion, or maybe it's the past Surgeon General, but that loneliness and social isolation are the largest, most important health problem of our time, and so. Yeah, I mean, this is a big one near and dear to my heart for sure. Connection and keeping people connected and getting people reconnected or connected to new people, like it's a big part of what I do professionally and personally.
Yeah, I think this is a big one, and it ties in. There's a second headline. We can talk about the two together, really, but I think it's really interesting when we've got this theory and we kind of know stuff, and then when the science actually backs it up. But it's that loneliness changes blood proteins linked to disease and mortality from The Guardian. And anyway, about 90% of the proteins that are caused by loneliness are linked to some type of mortality risk, and half are linked to cardiovascular disease, stroke, or, again, right in your wheelhouse, John, type 2 diabetes. So
Yeah, I haven't seen that particular report, but it doesn't surprise me. And, depression, I think there's some, I don't know how solid the links are, but I've heard about links from depression to like mental decline, Alzheimer's and dementia. And so, at the end of the day, people want to be connected. Human beings are a community animal, and we need to be in community to be the most healthy. And so, and not to say alone time is not good occasionally too. I needed some alone time to recharge over the weekend, but we're a community being for sure.
yeah. Yeah, so we've talked about community, we've talked about exercise, we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about mindset, we've talked about a lot.
Purpose,
What's that?
purpose, talk about
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah. I mean, we've yes, definitely. There's a lot of things here, right? So, um, Anthony, if you knew you were going to be healthy at 100, okay, and so not alive. I'm not talking alive, right? We're not talking about being decrepit and not being able to move, but we're talking about being healthy, being as healthy as you are now at 100 years old. What does that change?
Well, so let's put the good habits aside, because then the assumption is that I'll have had a healthy diet and are still active and so forth, and following the right regimen. What it comes down to for me is who am I going to share that with? Obviously I want it to be the person I'm married to and my kids and my grandkids and so on and so forth. But what other part of the social community do I want to be part of? Or can I be part of to enable me to have, the enjoyment that brings? It isn't about me. It's about the community and the surroundings that you're a part of that really makes that part of life enjoyable. So, who it will be, how it will be, where it will be, where do I want to live, um, in what kind of facility do I want to be in terms of a home or uh, a community of people of similar age and backgrounds and so on. So yeah, it gives me, and I think about, and I think about that now. I think about that now. So
Well, you're tying right into the five F's, right? The family and the
right.
friends. Two of the five F's you're tying right into there.
Well, the one thing we touched on earlier was finance. Longevity means you've got to have a way of financing that, like longevity. I don't think you can rely on the government for that. Not in any way that's going to be um, maintain a lifestyle that I'm accustomed to. So the planning, planning your finances, um, and protecting your finances during that time, um, is becomes really important as well.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Because financial planners, they talk about, okay, you're going to retire when you're 65 and you're going to have enough money to last until you're 80, 90, 100, whatever it's going to be. But if all of a sudden it has to last till 150, the math changes quite a bit, right? You need either better returning investments, more money, a higher financial finish line, another concept we've talked about. There's that's a that's a big variable. That's going to be a challenge for people.
Do you keep working? And if you're working, if living to 100, becomes the norm, how does that change society's approach to employment? If everyone at this point, you kind of targets that 65 to 75 area to hang it up. But what changes in society if that becomes, if 70 is the new 40?
I
You know,
think
so
I think you have to keep working, right? Like, I mean, I think if
yeah,
you're gonna live and have that purpose, maybe not. Maybe people can paint or travel or do charity work or whatever. But I think for a lot of people, they have to keep working. By the way, I hope our politicians in Washington aren't hearing this because I'd like to get rid of all the 80-year-olds and the ones that are falling asleep in their chair. But for most people, I think yes, keep. If you're healthy, let's keep working. John, you're on mute.
Whether you're working as a vocation or avocation, right? Like it can be a hobby, it can be volunteer work, it can be like if your finances, play to that. But I think staying mentally alive and engaged has been shown to be a really important part of a healthy aging. And so, I mean, it's a kind of an N of one, but Warren Buffett's what, 98 right now? How old is that guy? And he's still, showing up at the office every day and just now turning over the reins. And then, you know, and my guess is he'll still show up to the office every day. But I think that's so work doesn't have to be work for money. It can be, you know, a different career, a second career, for some people, a third career, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
our listeners, some may not recognize the name of Norman Lear, who lived to be 100. He created some of the most iconic sitcoms and TV shows in the 70s and 80s. But later in life, he mentored young writers, um, and basically taught them as best he could the secrets of his success. And that's how he spent the last 10 or so years of his life, taking all his successes and trying to teach the next generation of writers, comedy or otherwise. So yeah, to John's point, he had plenty of money, and so he wanted to give back, and that's what he did later in
Yeah.
life, and he lived to be 100. And right up to the end, he was meeting with people, and um, before he passed.
Yeah, the longest living woman that I could find in preparing for the show today, 122 years old and change. Oldest man was 116 and change. And so those are, I mean, that's already been done, right? And we have recorded history, a number of times. And so that's the current bar.
Yeah. So we've talked about friends, family, the finances. What about fitness? How would that change if John, Anthony, if you knew you were going to be as healthy as you are now, or healthier maybe? Let's say healthier. Let's make it more fun. You're going to be healthier now than you were at 100. How would that change your fitness routine?
Healthier at 100. I think some things that like the body is designed to kind of go through the whole life cycle, right? And so there is some decline. And I think at age 50 something and beyond, you're in that decline. So the hope, I think, would be that we find some ways to slow or reverse that decline. We've talked about that a little bit today already. And so, I think that's probably true for cognitive as well. And then there's the emotional piece of it as well. So you would hope that you would physically, so you have physical fitness, like we talk about in the 5Fs fitness. So physical fitness, mind, body, spirit. What's your mental, ability, and then what is your spiritual, emotional ability to get healthier? And so I think you'd want to be exercising in all three of those ways in an age appropriate way and getting stronger. And I think you can, probably measure the strength of those three things in a lot of different ways, but and based on what you want your activities and lifestyle to be.
Well, I think it also depends. You know, we follow a number of people that give good advice and counsel, and I recommend to anyone listening or watching that you maybe follow a Peter Diamandis or an Attia or a Huberman. But Diamandis, his approach, not approach, but his belief is that we can extend the frontier, right? Whereas Huberman is create a baseline, right? Extending the frontier means what advances in technology are going to enable the skeleton to either rejuvenate or stay stronger into later years, because your skeleton is currently designed to fade away almost in a lot of ways. Cognitively, same thing.
Mhm.
So what's on the frontier that's going to change those things, right? Um, I think what was her name? Martina Rothblatt. She was the founder of Sirius Radio, who went off. She had a daughter with a unique lung disease that was usually deadly, and she quit her job and founded a company and found a cure for it. Well, now she's created a company that is creating organs, uh, artificial organs, so artificial lungs and artificial livers and artificial kidneys and things like that. Not, they're not in use yet, but those things, again, are they on the frontier? And how does it, if those things happen, everything changes, right? There's no more, oh, there's grandpa sitting in the chair watching the football game. No, there's grandpa out in the backyard throwing the ball with the grandkids. It's a totally different lifestyle. That's what I hope happens in the not too distant future. That's what I want to be. I mean, uh,
I would just push a little, Anthony, and say you're also doing the things though that it takes to be able to get there. I think that there are people I've met that want the pill, the shot, the whatever that is the shortcut only. And we talk to people in our medical practice about, all those things are good shortcuts to get you going. But in order to make it to longevity, that at some point, healthy diet, healthy exercise, healthy relationships, those things need to happen in order to probably get to longevity as in the direction we're headed today.
yeah, but I will tell you, as a 69-year-old guy, um, I personally are seeing the effects of age, and I see it on the golf course. I see it in the distance that I can hit a golf ball
Mhm.
has changed dramatically in the last 5 years. The the flexibility, the swing speed, not so much the strength, um, but it's I'm 10% shorter than I was just 5 years ago. So, and that it really is hitting home with me right now. So,
Yeah.
whatever, if there is a pill out there, listeners, if you got a pill that can fix my 220-yard drives back to 250, that would be really awesome. Send them
Well, and
along.
golf clubs may do that too, right? Like at some point, we may get technology, the golf clubs and the balls that pros aren't allowed to use because they're going too long could be a way to solve some of that too. But that's different than the core health,
Right.
maybe.
That doesn't change the health part of it.
Right.
What I'm just saying is there is that I am deteriorating. That's the bottom line.
Mhm.
And I guess everybody is to some extent, but
Yeah.
man, it's emotional at this age. There's
Well,
a there's a real emotion to it.
circling back to Kurzweil, according to him, there's going to be a point where instead of deteriorating X amount per year, you will get better, healthier X amount per year. Again, I hope he's right. I have no idea if he's right, but it seems reasonable with some of the stuff they're working on.
Yeah.
I'm certainly hopeful for that. I haven't seen the science behind it to give me enough to be like, yeah, we're on that path. We're going to get there. And I don't study this area deeply. Like, this is not my area, right? But I want to believe. And so the things that I talk to people about are like, how do you make sure that you are really well educated and that where things are unknown, you're at least educated in making those decisions as best you can.
All right, well, let's transition to the fifth F, fun, and go back to the question. If you know you were going to be as healthy or healthier than you are now at 100, how would that change fun? What would be different?
Well, I would build. I would say that it. I would build on the fun that I'm having now. The fun I'm having now will. It's not, you're not alone. So you're doing it with friends. You're doing it with family, and so they come along for that ride, right? So creating, a great atmosphere. Enjoying your time with people you love or enjoy being with. I think that's is kind of a continuum. It's not something, well, I'm going to wake up at 90 and start having this kind of fun. It's, this community of people that I'm involved with and things that I do is just going to be a continuation of that, to whatever extent physically we I can do that, but it's going to be a continuation. So, and it's the relationship building.
Yeah.
My grandkids are 8 and younger. I really look forward to when they're in their 20s, and I want to be part of their existence, not in their way, so to speak, but I want them to have some really positive memories and things to talk about, and learnings that they can get from me, when they're in their 20s, and I hope, pray that I'll be in a position to enjoy that, and that to me will be fun.
It makes me think, like my grandma, she had a bunch of grandkids, a whole bunch of great great grandkids, a few great great grandkids, right? And if we can live that long, that'll be commonplace to have great great grandkids. Or imagine Anthony in however many years with great 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 grandkids, right? Like passing or multiple. How many generations can we string together? Kind of an interesting
Yeah,
thought experiment.
yeah,
John, got
Yeah,
your thinking?
I think along the same lines, I think about like lifetime experiences, lifetime activities. I also like the book Die with Zero, where he talks about, what experiences do you want to have in what decades of life based on what your capability will be. And as a result of reading that book, there's some things I pulled forward to do now, right, that I kind of have on my bucket list, but I want to be able to do them at today's level of activity. And so interesting thought exercises around like what decades do I want to be doing what things. And I just committed to my youngest son that I'm going to start playing table tennis competitively in my age group to be able to play with him competitively, because I feel table tennis is a really good lifetime sport, and there's some evidence that it helps with slowing down the mental decline. And so I think I'm trying to make really thoughtful choices about lifetime things.
Yeah, I think the mental decline we maybe haven't talked enough about, and some of it, if you're working on a business and you're excited about the future, that probably takes care of itself. But do you guys do, like, I know I play this Sudoku, or I play this, I forget what it's called, Super Sudoku, where it starts with nothing on the board and there's other variables and it's more complex. Or I will play some puzzle games fairly frequently on a tablet, especially if there's something on TV that I don't really happen to want to watch. And I think that's keeping my brain sharper. But do you guys do anything actively with your brain, with mental fitness?
well, I'll tell you this. My wife's father is going to be 92, I think, this year. Still can ride a bike, completely with it, and he does the New York Times crossword puzzle in pen every single day. He's been doing it for as long as I'm married 40 plus years, and he's been doing it all along that time. So the puzzles are really something. What I do personally is I'm reading classics.
Hmm.
So Shakespeare, just you name it, biographies and so forth. Constantly reading, to just keep my mind and my eyes sharp and learn something new. I'm reading the Christmas Carol right now, so Dickens' Christmas Carol right
Hmm.
now, timely for this time of year, which is an amazing read. So that's what
And
I
I
do.
think the science, Randy, that I just read was that doing Sudoku regularly helps you stay sharp for Sudoku, and the New York Times helps you to stay sharp for that. But there are some other things that can actually help you stay sharp more broadly. And so there's some emerging science about which things are good at keeping you good for that specialized thing, which can be really helpful, right? Because if the crossword puzzle is something you look forward to, it's really helpful to stay sharp for that for the long term. But I think, more broadly, there are some things you can do to keep you sharp beyond this the scope of that particular game. And so I just encourage you to kind of read more about that if you're interested in that. And then for me, I think it's more than just keeping sharp with work, but with friendships, right? Doing things that keep you active socially, which for me, in busy times of life where work gets busy, the social stuff can be easy to let go of a little bit. And it takes a little bit more deliberate thought to get into those fun things. So I think having activities you can do with friends is really important. Having those, like golf is a great one. I think, table tennis for me is a great one. I think there's lots of things you can do. I've got this recreational enjoyment thing that I found that I keep this table. I have about 300 things I've now developed where Amber, my wife, and I go through a couple times now. We've done it in our relationship. We score what things we love and what things we hate. And I think it's safe to say that I'm not going to be knitting at any point in my entire life based on this, exercise I went through. But we both like hiking, and so we're going to find ways to enjoy more hiking together, both locally and, hopefully across the globe. And so.
Okay. I got another question for you guys. We didn't discuss this question. So what if to live to be 150 and be super healthy, what if you need to either A, have some kind of robot in your body, exoskeleton, or B, do you have to have a brain chip implant to keep you going, or C, both? Are you open to that? Would you do it? Are you hell no? Where do you fall on this?
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah,
Life is
probably not a
good.
first mover for me. I'm not going to be the first one to do it, but I'm certainly not going to be far behind.
Yeah, fast follower for sure. Yeah, I mean that's part of it, right? I mean we do that now. I take 31 supplements a day. I exercise. I go to the doctor. Get checkups. So that's just part of it, part of technological advances. I could text my grandkids. Never could have done that 20 years ago. So, yeah, I'm in. I'm in, and that's where a lot of discussion is in technology and changes and it's not. I don't want to call it medicine treatments. Changes in treatments. Um, I'm excited about it. I hope it gets here sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think of my dad. My dad had both hips replaced, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now, right? And one of them went pretty well, and one of them didn't go very well, and they dropped him off the operating table and multiple things that, anyway. Um, you know, what if there was a robotic hip that they could just put in and it turns into, like, I don't know. I don't know if my dad would go for that. My guess is he wouldn't go for that. But you guys both sound like you would. John, you're going to be the first person in line. But yeah.
No, not the first. Definitely the third.
I might let that one go a little longer. I feel a lot about this the same way I did about LASIK. I wanted LASIK for years and years. And I finally I was like, before somebody starts operating on my eyes, I'd just like a little more data. And I kind of waited on that one, probably longer than I needed to. But
A little more data and a little more skill, right? Like I was the same for LASIK. I was somebody who was like, yep, I'm a yes, but I'm a yes after someone's got a little better practice at it.
yeah. So, all right. It's curious. I didn't actually know where you guys would fall on that. So the fact that you're both right there, I think I'm in there too. But I actually weirdly might be more hesitant than the two of you on this, which I would not have. I don't know that I would have predicted that. So, all
Well,
right.
you'll have your own personal robot, wheeling you around the house. So, do you think that's coming? Personal assistant robots and so forth. So
Look,
we'll
if
see.
we really want to go off the deep end, which I know John does in the worst, Dr. John wants to go off the deep end in the worst way possible. So let's go. Um, anyway, um, you know, the Matrix is not very far from being possible, in my opinion. Like, if you think back to the movie Matrix, it was way ahead of its time. And AI, VR, and whatever else are getting so good. They say that when we have 8K, that it'll be indistinguishable from real life. I don't know if, we'll see. But that could be a future, right? To me, that doesn't sound very exciting to be strapped in and living in a fake world, but God, I don't know if you can create it and it's like your own personalized video game and everything you like and enjoy. I don't know. I mean, there's a future. There's a future. It seems kind of dystopian to me, but there's a future where that happens, right?
Yeah,
Where,
Yeah,
Ready
you're right.
Player One.
You went off the deep end. Yeah, you did. You went off the deep end.
Yeah.
Agreed.
well, something we
We'll
need.
we'll
Something
see
I
where
think
that
we need
takes
to
us.
fight against. We
We'll
got to get
see.
Neo in here and keep us beat the Matrix. All
You
right,
realize this podcast is going to be searchable by Skynet, right?
there we
Like,
go.
just so you know.
There we go. So, all right, the big question. We've been talking about this for about an hour. How long do you think you will live? Actually, let me ask this first question. If I would have asked you this question turn of the century, 25 years ago, what would your answer have been? Let's start there.
So my grandparents lived into their 90s, Randy, and that was kind of my hope, was to get to the early 90s. And so today I have a goal to live to 105 as the goal. And so, and that could change over time, right? So if science changes, that goal will change too.
So you've gone from 90s to 105. So
Yeah.
we're definitely moving in the right direction. Anthony,
I don't have a plan to die.
I love
So
that.
I'm just not gonna I'm not gonna put a target out there. I just don't plan. Why plan to die if you don't have to?
I love that. Shit, I don't even want to answer after that question because how am I going
But
to
you
follow
have
that?
to.
What's that?
You have to, though.
Yeah. Well, what
I
would
mean,
you have
what
said
is
25 years ago, Anthony?
I've always felt that way. It I've just never I just don't give it any thought. It's an event. It's like going to sleep at night. You go to sleep at night and you're not in control of anything. You just kind of then you wake up the next day. So I don't think about it in terms of life and death, and I just don't have a plan for it. I have a financial plan for it and a plan for my family, but I don't have a. It's like I'm not setting a target. Just going to keep going.
Yeah. I was similar to you, John. I've got a couple of grandmas that lived to be 99. My grandpa's died earlier of heart disease, and my thing was always like, boy, I can live to be 100 if I just got to stay ahead of the heart disease thing in my family, and I can live to be 100. And now that number is at least 150. But really, when I start thinking, well, God, if I could live to be 150, that's almost 100 years from now, and the way technology is growing, I don't know. If you can live to be 150, why can't you be 200 or 300? Right? It seems like if we can break through that threshold, that it goes forever. But Anthony's the best answer I've ever heard from this. Is I'm not planning on dying. That is.
I think it'd be great to have Christian back and talk about the theological question around that. Because I got to say, I don't know that I want to live to 300, 200. Like
Right.
there's,
Well, we've been.
that's
You
a,
won't
but
know
that's,
till you
that's a
get.
whole
You won't
question.
know till you get there. You won't know till you get there.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people. People make decisions today to end their lives voluntarily because of where they are and how they feel and what they don't want to face tomorrow for whatever reason. So until we get there, what's to discuss? You'll know when you know.
All right, listeners, you heard it. There's the
That's
wisdom.
little dark way to end there, but
Yeah.
that's right.
So
150 to forever.
No, think
That's
of it.
the
Think of it as a positive
yeah.
way. I mean, why plan on a negative? Plan on the positive. Be healthy, be happy, work at it, enjoy
yeah.
it while you're here. It's your only real choice, by the way.
Yeah. By
You
the way,
are here,
well,
so you might as well enjoy it.
one of the other things we did not talk about that I think really ties into this is gratitude.
Yeah.
And we're about to wrap up, but
Yeah.
we probably should have spent more time on gratitude. And I think people that live in gratitude are more likely to live long, long lives and have a more realistic chance, whether it's 100, 150, 200, whatever number you pick. So listeners, I would encourage you to think about this. Hopefully we've allowed you to think a little bigger and a little longer, a little healthier, a little more abundance, and think about how to incorporate that, what steps you can take. And if you're still here, you obviously like us, so download, tell your friends, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go to talesofabundance.com. John, Anthony, it has been a pleasure. So looking forward to next week.
Pleasure was all ours.
All right.
See you, Randy.
Listen and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Click follow for more content like this, or go to talesofabundance.com to join our community and get free tools.